Good evening. I'd like to call this regular Board of Education meeting dated August 24th, 2026 to order. So first, the recitation of vision and mission statements. Our vision is the Madison Metropolitan School District will be a learning community where all students are valued, challenged, supported, and inspired to reach for their dreams. Our mission is the Madison Metropolitan School District creates safe and inclusive schools, delivers high quality instruction, strengthens positive relationships, and partners with families and the community to achieve student self-determination and educational excellence. Moving on to written statements and public input. There were 77 written statements submitted for this meeting, 29 in support of a technology plan review and limiting the use of technology and prioritizing human-led, human-centered instruction, 22 in support of renaming Chavez Elementary to Maple Grove Elementary, 6 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary after a person and using either Maple Grove of Ice Age Trail, 5 in support of renaming Chavez Elementary to Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary, 5 in support of renaming Elvium Elementary to Stephanie A. Bernard Elementary, 3 in support of student instruction being conducted predominantly with human interaction and or in the real world, 2 opposed to renaming schools after people, 1 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary and keeping the current name, 1 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary to Ice Age Trail Elementary, 1 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary. Okay, it was on, but okay. Should I restart?
Yes.
Okay, with the vision and mission. Okay. Okay, no, I was wondering where I should restart at. Okay. There were 77 written statements submitted for this meeting, 29 in support of a technology plan review and limiting the use of technology and prioritizing human-led, human-centered instruction, 22 in support of renaming Chavez Elementary to Maple Grove Elementary, 6 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary after a person and using either Maple Grove of Ice Age Trail, 5 in support of renaming Chavez Elementary to Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary, 5 in support of renaming Elvium Elementary to Stephanie A. Bernard Elementary, 3 in support of student instruction being conducted predominantly with human interaction and or in the real world, 2 opposed to renaming schools after people, 1 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary and keeping the current name, 1 in support of renaming Chavez Elementary to Ice Age Trail Elementary, 1 in support of not renaming Chavez Elementary, but if needed, would rename to Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary, 1 in support of a technology audit to consider how much technology is being used and when it is being used, 1 in support of renaming Chavez Elementary to Dejope Elementary. So on to our online and public appearances. We have 3 online. Okay, go ahead.
Our first online speaker is Jonathan Farley.
Yep. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Here we go. All right. My name is Jonathan Farley, and I am a Chavez alum. I am in support of renaming Cesar Chavez Elementary School to Maple Grove Elementary School. I don't really think we should name schools after people because this could potentially cause controversies and this can lead to more renaming stress. This would also require more money to be spent, which shouldn't go to waste and it should be saved up. I don't want to have you go through that all the time. I just want you to focus on more important things. I think back of names of other MMSD schools I went to. Spring Harbor Middle School and Belle Phillips Memorial High School. Spring Harbor Middle School is named after the Spring Harbor neighborhood, and while VPM is named after a person, I think including Memorial in its name makes sense to honor the civil rights pioneer. Both of them are located on the streets named after them. Chavez is located on Maple Grove Drive, and renaming it after the street makes sense. Many people get to Chavez by taking Maple Grove Drive, making the school easy to find. Wisconsin's official state tree is a maple tree, or sugar maple tree, and the school is surrounded by trees. It will also follow MMSD's acknowledgement of the Ho-Chunk Nation, which can incorporate the Ho-Chunk language to honor the land's heritage with a translation for Hard Maple Grove. I am one of the 73 people who proposed the Maple Grove name. I have seen on the website that Memorial is the most popular rename suggestion. These are the reasons why I think Cesar Chavez Elementary School should be renamed to Maple Grove Elementary School. It won't cause future controversies. It makes more sense to be named after the street it's located on, Wisconsin's state tree, and it would be an acknowledgement of the Ho-Chunk Nation. Please consider Maple Grove Elementary School. And it is also my birthday today. So my birthday wish is for you to vote for Maple Grove Elementary School to be the new name for Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Janet Piarino.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I appear before you today to urge you to name Lindbergh Elementary School after Jeffrey Clay Erlinger. I got to know Jeff during my 8 years as Mayor Dave Chislevich's chief of staff. Jeff was a frequent visitor at City Hall, and I'm a better person for having known him. I believe naming Lindbergh School after Jeff will teach our elementary schoolers 3 critical lessons. Number 1, how to persevere when there are seemingly insurmountable barriers in your way. Jeff was in a wheelchair since age 4. The simplest tasks that we do mindlessly every day took a tremendous effort for Jeffrey. But he didn't let that stop him from fighting for what he believed in and showing up countless times at City Hall to make Madison a better and more accessible place. Number 2, how to work hard to leave your community better than you found it. You know, if you Google the word civic mindedness, I would not be surprised if Jeffrey Erlinger's picture popped up. He was a steadfast advocate for people with disabilities, and that he showed that advocacy by the number of committees he served on, including he chaired the Madison Commission on People with Disabilities and the Board of Community Living Alliance. He was also a member of the Governor's Rehabilitation Council. But his advocacy went far beyond accessibility. He was also a member of Madison's Economic Development Commission, a director of the Madison Area Community Land Trust, and president of the State Langdon Neighborhood Association. Number 3, how to persuade and disagree with kindness and humor. The word divisive was not in his vocabulary. I don't think there was ever a more important time in the history of our country to send this message to our kids. I personally love, I'm sorry, let me step back for a minute. I want to say, don't get me wrong, Jeff was persistent. I'm sure there was more than one time when I was looking for a ladies' room to duck into when I saw Jeffrey heading towards me to chew my arm, to chew my ear about something. But he was always right, and he did it with a smile on his face and a warmth in his heart. He was so good at it that the city has a Jeffrey Clay Erlinger Civility in Public Discourse Award in his honor, given to a person each year who embodies this respectful and thoughtful advocacy. So please don't let this important opportunity slip by. Please honor Jeffrey Clay Erlinger's legacy by naming the elementary school he attended after him, and let him continue to teach the next generation the important lessons he lived by. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck in your decision.
Thank you. Our final online speaker is Rebecca Runo.
I am so sorry. For some reason, my phone is in safe driving mode. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that. I am Rebecca Runo. Not only were both of my kids Chavez alums and graduated from MMSD, but also I'm a taxpayer as well. I'm urging you to stop naming schools after people. All of my friends and neighbors that I've spoken with, many of whom are former and present Chavez parents and faculty, all agree with this. MMMSD already has so many budget issues, and this would prevent this in the future, as Jonathan touched on earlier. So I'm urging you to please vote for Maple Grove Elementary for Chavez's new name. And thank you so much for letting me appear before you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our in-person speakers. Just as a reminder, we all get 3 minutes. I will give a polite reminder when you hit the 3-minute mark. And please refrain from applause, as it helps move the process along more smoothly. All right, our first speaker is Stephen Skolaski.
How many do we have, Chair?
We have 25.
Thank you.
Our first speaker is Stephen Skolaski. On deck is Matt Sewing. Yes.
Good. Good evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in support of Jeff Erlinger being renamed to school from Lindbergh. And I also want to compliment the committee. It is a very difficult task that you've assembled here, getting all the names and listen to the committee as a whole, and I compliment you on that. Why Jeff Erlinger? He was Madison. You heard recently just some of the things that he did. He was a graduate of Lindbergh School, high school, Edgewood College. But it was more than his education that he looked at. It was all of the committees they served in. I took the time to call 2 previous mayors who he worked under and served under, and they said this about Jeff. Number 1, he was always on time. Number 2, he was always prepared. Number 3, he was always timely with his conversation, respectful, but he was also very focusing on those rights of what the commission was in place. Never went off. You know, when you think about it, and by the way, one of the previous county executives said to me, Madison's accessibility to transportation for people with disability occurred when Jeff was on the commission on people with disabilities. You know, when you think about Jeff, he was just not some local yokel. I mean, he was regional and he was nationwide, if you think about it. What he did in appearing on Mr. Rogers, and for those of you who know Mr. Rogers, my kids have joined it. Think about it. 20 years later, Tom Hanks decided he's going to be playing Mr. Rogers. And why did he do it? Everybody here knows why. It was because of Jeff Erlinger, the example that he set. Jeff went on that show and he showed not to have pity, but to show that there was a person there who was in a wheelchair, who didn't give up, who said, I could do everything. I could do anything. It doesn't matter. He survived that. And for that, thousands of kids, tens of thousands of kids, and forget about just kids, the parents and the adults who went through that same thing, getting that example was really an incredible example. The Madison School District has had a long history of honoring politicians, educators, people who have notoriety. Recently, you did Val Phillips out in Memorial. What a great honor that was to name something on her behalf. Madison School District has a long history of doing that. And I say to you, by renaming Lindbergh School, the Jeff Clay Erlinger School, you're doing that. You're letting him know and letting people know that they are worthy of the honor of something that is being named on his behalf. When I looked at the history of Madison School District, and by the way, I never met Jeff. I know a lot about him because born and raised in Madison, and you can't, how could you not know Jeff? The one thing that I noticed was that there is no school, no building, no room, unless I'm wrong, named in honor of somebody with disability. I'm going to take one more second here, so I apologize. There's no school. Doing that is really important. I have to read this because I wrote this down. It's not something that I could just verbalize and looking at. If we name the school Lindbergh and Jeff Erlinger, what you are doing is you are setting an example of the Madison School District has taught us all. Accessibility, belonging, dignity, and participation. That is what you've been teaching. You have a very difficult task coming up, and I applaud you on it. I hope that you take into consideration some of the comments that I've made, the comments that you've heard, some of the things that you're into writing and doing it. And naming the Lindbergh School in honor of Jeff Erlinger, the Lindbergh School in honor of Jeff Erlinger. And I say to you, that is what is right can be done. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt Sewing. On deck is Jill Nyland. And if I mispronounce your name, please do correct me. And if you need translation, please let our translator know as you are walking up.
Hi, good evening. I am the parent of an incoming first and fourth grader at Chavez Elementary. I'm not asking this board to decide whether or not a person is deserving of having a school named after them. In part, though, I am asking that the board consider that if 3 schools named after individuals need new names tonight, that perhaps naming schools after people is not the best practice. We can recognize the culture, advocacy, and communities represented in our schools without tying the school's identity to one individual. Replacing one person with another and hoping that choice holds up better does not solve any underlying problem. My preference is for Maple Grove Elementary. Maple Grove is a name rooted in the ecology and landscape of the school's location. The district's own record shows that Maple Grove received by far the most submissions, at least 72, not including the written submissions recorded today, from teachers, parents, and residents who live in the neighborhood. It did not come from one person or from one organization. Maple Grove is the name this school community has already embraced. At a time when budgets are tight and family trust matters, we should make choices that unite, belong to everyone, and respect the input received, and are unlikely to be revisited at additional cost in the future. Let the students, families, and educators shape what the schools stand for, not define the school by whose name is on the building. Whether the board chooses Maple Grove, Ice Age Trail, or Dejope, I hope you use this opportunity to choose a name that can stand the test of time and move away from naming public schools after people. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jill Nyland. On deck is Sandy Ruiz.
Hello, before I start, I'm gonna read this, okay, because I get nervous and I lose my words and I don't want to miss anything. My name is Jill Nyland. I'm a registered nurse. Sure. My name is Jill Nyland. I'm a registered nurse and the founder of Children's Voice, Inc., a nonprofit dedicated to protecting and educating children. I created a drug safety education program specifically for 5th grade students. I'm here today not to replace anything the district is already doing, but to ask whether this program could complement the education and prevention efforts you already have in place. I am proposing a small pilot program consisting of 2 approximately 30-minute lessons. The program focuses on a few clear age-appropriate safety measures or messages: medication safety, understanding that drugs and alcohol can affect the brain and body, knowing what to do if someone cannot breathe or wake up, calling 911 and following the dispatcher's instructions, and using the CLEAR plan to help children remember how to respond safely to dangerous situations. Before beginning a pilot, I would like the material reviewed by appropriate professionals, including pediatricians, a substance use prevention or treatment professional, and district curriculum staff. I'm willing to make any appropriate changes based on these recommendations. Before asking the district to consider using this program more broadly, I believe that we should first determine whether it is effective. I'm proposing a small 5th grade pilot that would use pre and post lesson questions to measure what students know before the lesson and what they learn afterward. I would also welcome feedback from the participant teachers and curriculum staff. If the pilot demonstrates that the program is effective and the district determines that it would benefit 5th grade students, Children's Voice, Inc. would provide the hardcover student books needed for the 5th grade program. My first request today is not for funding or district-wide adoption. It's for the opportunity to have the program professionally reviewed. Conduct a small pilot, measure the results, and then come back together to decide whether the program should move forward. If the program were eventually provided, the 5th grade students across the district hand-cover books alone would cost me over $3,000. I understand that the district's drug and substance abuse prevention resources have to serve many needs and many students, and I do not want the cost of my materials to take resources away from counseling, prevention services, or other programs that the district already provides. I'm not asking the board today to commit to adopting a new curriculum district-wide. I am asking for the opportunity to have materials reviewed and to discuss whether a small 5th grade pilot would be appropriate. I would also appreciate being connected with the person responsible for curriculum or drug prevention education so that I can work together through proper district process. After the professional and curriculum reviews are complete, I would like to request a follow-up meeting to discuss the recommendations and determine whether we can move forward with a pilot. My goal is simple: to give children clear, practical information that may help them to make safe decisions when it matters most. Thank you for your time and for everything you do for the students of Madison.
Thank you. Thank you. Up next is Sandy Ruiz, and on deck is Grisely Rios Carmona.
Dear committee, my name is Sandy Flores Ruiz. I attended MMSD schools my entire life. I graduated from West High School in 2024. I am now a third-year pre-law student at UW-Madison. My journey to higher education was non-linear, but it became possible thanks to Professor Roberto G. Sanchez High School Scholarship Program. Professor Sanchez's legacy extends far beyond my own story. His program has empowered countless Latina students and families in the MMSD area to navigate and pursue higher education. Renaming the school in his honor would properly recognize and profound impact on Latina students in the broader community. I strongly support naming the school after Professor Roberto G. Sanchez, and I urge the community to consider a lasting contribution. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you. All right, up next is Grisely Rios Carmona, and on deck is Leslie Ann Vasquez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Grisely Rios. I am an MMSC alumni. I graduated from Badger Rock Middle School, and I'm also a part of the class of 2023 of Bell Phillips Memorial High School. Currently, I am a rising senior at Columbia University, where I study human rights and economics. When I came to Madison in 2018, I was with my dad, and we were staying with family friends that lived in the apartment buildings behind the Quick Trip in the Maple Grove Drive and McKee Road intersection. We were driving down the road, and I see Chavez Elementary. I gasped and was filled with a lot of concern. For context, my family and I are from Venezuela, and the only Chavez I knew was not Cesar Chavez, but Hugo Chavez, the authoritarian populist president. Now, it was a funny anecdote, and I eventually learned who Cesar Chavez was, but I like that it was a Spanish name. That regardless of whoever lived in the area, be white, Black, Asian, Hispanic, they all went to a school with a last name that should be pronounced like mine. I felt a strange sense of belonging. That feeling came back the following year, towards the end of my 8th grade, when my teacher, Ms. Ames, mentioned that the school would like to nominate me for the Sanchez Scholarship. Now, I never got to meet Professor Roberto Sanchez, but I learned by his legacy and found a community of inspiring Latino leaders like Daniela Lurrualde, who became my UW People Advisor throughout my 4 years of high school. As I mentioned, I am a graduate of Bell Phillips Memorial High School. I was a junior when the district changed the name, and back then, I also did not know who Bell Phillips was. Nobody in my grade knew, until we learned. And that is the beauty about educational institutions. They are iterative learning spaces. As a pre-law student, I am proud to tell people I know that the high school that I went to was named after the first Black woman to go to UW-Madison Law. At 17, I became an older sister, and given how much my parents move around Madison, especially on the west side, it is very possible that in a couple years, she will be attending this school. And besides my selfish wishes for her to attend Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School, I think that she would find herself, as many other kids, learning from the impact of Roberto G. Sanchez and living through the goals of service and education, where kids learn what a professor is and are immediately immersed in the possibilities and value of higher education, where some can foster a sense of belonging in their early ages and others a sense of community they would otherwise not have. As Madison expands rapidly, it is important that we maintain community-rooted legacies and continue expanding belonging for children of all backgrounds, especially those whose current political climate is trying to berate and tear down. As a Sanchez scholar, I believe that Roberto G. Sanchez exemplified that which we are slowly losing, but can regain back, which is unity, justice, and equality. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Up next is Leslie Ann Vasquez. On deck is Heather Kalshi.
Hello, everyone. I hope I can get through this after having Herceli give such a wonderful speech. I'm always very proud of all of the Sanchez scholars and their accomplishments, and I am really happy that she's still here before going back to Columbia to finish her degree this year. She is a senior, and we're really proud of her. I did not write anything down, and it's always such not a good choice because I get very emotional, but I can't sit here and give you factual data that you already know about Latinos in our school district, Latinos in our community, and how they're represented in our schools. I have been working for this district for 23 years. 23 years in which I have had different positions. And the one that I treasure the most is working with the Sanchez scholars. It is the one that I get the least paid for or least recognized for, and that is my favorite one. As a Latina woman, I selfishly want to say that in this community and in this district, I have not always felt welcome. I have not always felt valued. I have not always felt seen, and I have not always felt recognized. I know many other people in this room. I've met them multiple times and even have conversations with them, and still I don't get recognized. I want to change that. I want to change that for my students. I want to change that for the students that I work for at Higo Elementary School. It doesn't matter which color they are. I want all of them to feel seen, welcome, and valued, not only in my school, but in the whole district. If I could have had my entire school here, they would have been here, because the impact that the Sanchez scholars have had in Higo, they would have liked Higo to be renamed after Sanchez scholars, because that's how important they have been at this school. We are now wanting to go to a different space and give there too. But bringing it back to Roberto G. Sanchez, nothing that you see back here could have happened if it had not been for the legacy that he left while he was still alive. He provided the funds for these students to have scholarships before he passed. And that is important to me, and I am grateful for that. Everyone who is a Sanchez scholar, who is the family member of a Sanchez scholar or has been impacted by a Sanchez scholar, could you please stand up? Representation matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Heather Kalshi, or Kalsher, sorry. And then on deck is Melissa Olander.
Good evening, Dr. Gothard and board members. I have been teaching at Chavez for 21 years and living in the neighborhood 25 years. I have been living in Madison my whole life. MMSD means a lot to me. Respectfully, as you are giving thought to the new name for Chavez, I would like you to really consider the 4 names proposed to you. 3 of the 4 names are indeed geographical names rather than the name of a person. I have been casually asking Madison community members their thoughts on renaming of Chavez all spring and summer. I spoke with immediate neighbors, current staff, former staff, retired teachers from across the district, and community members from all over Madison. The overall practically unanimous comment I received was, please name it anything except the name of a person. Only one person did actually comment to me that they would like to see a female name for a school come across if that's what was going to happen. At our senior walk in June, someone commented that this was the last group of seniors that would be sitting in front of Chavez, and a parent I didn't even know turned around and looked at me and just said, I just really hope they name it Maple Grove Elementary. Our rising 5th graders were also asked by a staff member at the end of last school year what they thought the name of our school should be. This was without seeing any of the community suggestions. The name with the most votes from this group of 4th graders was indeed Maple Grove Elementary. In the original community naming suggestions, there were over 75 people alone that submitted Maple Grove Elementary as a name. With many other non-name suggestions came the request to not use people names anymore. Throughout the summer, more public comment came in for Maple Grove Elementary, along with many, many requests to stop naming schools after people. The committee submitted 3 geographical names. I think the fact that 3 geographical names ended up in the top 4 represents the overall feeling of the Madison community. The general community is asking you to come together and choose a geographical name for the school. All 3 of the names submitted would allow for learning opportunities that can be connected to our curriculums across grade levels. Please let the school join Crestwood, Mendota, Midvale, Spring Harbor, Lakeview, New West Ramundo, Orchard Ridge, Shorewood Hills, Capitol, East, West, Badger Rock by giving it a geographical name. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Melissa Olander, and on deck is Eric Eifler.
Okay. My name is Melissa Olander. I am one of the school speech pathologists at Chavez Elementary School, and I live in the Chavez neighborhood, and I grew up in Madison on the east and the west side. My children, Jacob and Samantha, both graduated from Chavez and, of course, Memorial. In my opinion, Chavez's new name should be Maple Grove Elementary. Naming the school after the street it is on is a simple and practical choice because people will be able to find the school fast by knowing the street name. In addition, it creates a clear geographic identity for the building and connects the school directly to its local neighborhood. Jonathan Farley, who you heard earlier, but in his Zoom speech, because he modified it, is a Chavez graduate and spoke, and he shared information about how the name Maple Grove Elementary has geographic and agricultural significance and connects the school to the history of the neighborhood. Naming a school after a physical street avoids the risks and controversies tied to honoring individual historical and community figures. In 2001, the Madison School District chose the current name of our school to honor a prominent historical figure, Cesar Chavez. The unintended consequence of naming a school after a person is why we are here today. Let's not let history repeat itself. Many school districts across the country are moving away from naming buildings after specific individuals, including prominent local community members, to avoid future controversies. I propose naming our school Maple Grove Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Eric Eifler, and on deck is Anna Jordan Vasquez.
Good evening. I wanted to step up and just say thanks to Dr. Gothard and the board for their ongoing support of alternative education and Operation Fresh Start, and for the growing recognition that traditional school is not the right fit for every student. In addition, I want to recognize Tina Geyer for her excellent leadership over OYR and IAE. Through this partnership during the 25-26 school year, 35 young people without a clear path towards graduation earned high school diplomas, which I consider like a license to participate in adulthood within our community. In addition to the diploma, each left with building blocks for their career and college readiness, including the Department of Workforce Development pre-apprenticeship, OSHA 10, and CPR, and each left with a $2,800 education stipend called the Siegel Award. These numbers are all excellent, but I also wanted to drive the point home with some data that the legacy program and alternative education works. I recently analyzed some pre-post survey data that I've been collecting since 2018, and all 10 measures, which were based loosely on the 2018 vision of a graduate, came out quite positive. And just to share a few, on a Likert scale of 1 out of 5, with 5 being really good, young people felt prepared for life after high school at a 4.57, mentally positive at a 4.39, safe to express themselves as individuals at a 4.43, finding joy in school or work at a 4.66, and approaching challenges with a belief in success at a 4.62. So again, I just wanted to say thank you, and I feel lucky to be part of a district that puts resources towards innovation and supporting all of our learners. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Up next is Anna Jordan Vasquez, and on deck is Paul Sandell.
Hello, my name is Ana Gabriela Jordan Vasquez, and I would also like to make a small correction. It is pronounced Chavez Elementary School at the moment. I am an MMSD alumni, Bell Phillips Memorial, class of 2023. Have gone to MMSD schools my entire life, and am a current resident of the Chavez Elementary School neighborhood. Chavez Elementary is a school I have many experiences with, through summer school, through people I know, through my family working there, and not only through living in the neighborhood. My family is from Puerto Rico, and from a young age, I was bilingual. As I began school, however, I was enrolled in a school that did not have a DLI program, and with my English proficiency, I began to use my Spanish less and less. This distanced me from my culture and my language, and is something I wasn't able to recover from until closer to my college years. Having representation for students like me is not just a request, but a necessity. Separate from that, the Sanchez Scholars Program is something that has been part of my life since before I was born. My mother is Leslie Vasquez, who spoke to you earlier, coordinator of the Sanchez Scholars Program since 2003. For reference, I was born in 2005. Since I was born, I have borne firsthand witness to what Professor Sanchez's legacy left on not only the MMSD community, but the students in and the families tied to the program. Beyond his passing in 2016, his legacy has continued beyond his life. The Roberto G. Sanchez name is no longer just about a person. It represents opportunity, equality, excellence, pride, and honor. Renaming this school after him honors his commitments to not only education, but people as well. Having a school named after Latina pioneer will be the first step at celebrating the honor and excellence of the many Latina professionals who have helped build Madison and will continue to in the future. As Chavez is one of the schools with a prominent dual language immersion program, a school in my neighborhood, and a school that I adore, I believe the opportunity for all to have access to an education, no matter or despite their background, should be one of the most important representations for the student body, and this begins with renaming Chavez Elementary to Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Sandell, and on deck is Jesse Sandell.
Hi, I'm Paul Sandell. I strongly encourage you to rename Lindbergh School the Jeff Erlanger School. I'm a Madison pediatric cancer specialist. Jeff Erlanger's life was impacted by a spinal tumor that caused quadriplegia when he was an infant. Thankfully, he survived, and how. You'll hear tonight from several who knew him better than I, but I knew him, and I remain awed. At age 10, he was a guest on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. When Fred Rogers asked Jeff about his wheelchair, Jeff said, "It doesn't matter what I can't do. What matters is what I can." That's how I try to live my life. I was hoping to show you tonight this moving video, but policy prevents this. Fred Rogers would quote Jeff routinely throughout his life. Jeff surprised Fred Rogers 19 years later to speak at his induction into TV's Hall of Fame. And Fred's family invited Jeff to speak, which he did in 2003 at his funeral. Jeff went on to live 36 years and did so much more to help Madison and our country and world than most of us could ever do in twice that time. I'll give a few examples. Jeff served as the chair of Madison's Commission of People with Disabilities. He was the chairman of the board of Madison's Community Living Alliance. He was a member of Madison's Economic Development Committee. He served on the Governor's Committee for People with Disabilities. He did so much more. He ran for city council, promising that, if elected, he would be standing up for students. That was Jeff. I think any Madison school child would be proud to say, "I attend Madison's Jeff Erlanger School." He was a kind and impactful hero, and I hope you decide tonight to make this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Jesse Sandell, and on deck is Del Underbaki.
Thank you, board, for having me. I'm obviously Paul's son. I'm here today because Jeff was my friend. I'm a Madison-raised boy. I went to Falk Elementary School, Orchard Ridge Middle School, and James Madison Memorial High School, none of which are still called those three names. I'm here today because Jeff was a few years older than me and raised in the same community. And Jeff not only was my friend, but was a mentor and a teacher. And as a young boy in the 80s, looking up to Jeff, who was a couple years older than me, my cohort in Madison learned empathy and learned that just because you look different or had different physical abilities, this guy who led our youth group and did other things always had a smile and always had optimism. And he taught me how to view life from an optimistic point of view. As I went through my education, I ended up at the University of Wisconsin's veterinary school. I now own 2 veterinary clinics in town. While I was in veterinary school, Jeff, who had a wonderful, wonderful golden retriever as a service dog named Corduroy, happened to come in as a patient. Corduroy was the perfect golden retriever service dog for Jeff. He did once eat a broken glass bottle beer bottle on State Street, and that got Corduroy into some trouble. But as a veterinary student, I sadly had to diagnose corduroy with lymphoma. And as a fourth-year vet student in the clinics, I sadly held Jeff's hand and worked him through the loss of his dear dog. It was the loss of corduroy that really helped me become the veterinarian I am today in learning the empathy and how much an animal can mean to a person. You're going to hear a lot of things about Jeff and all the great things he did. But for me, it's him as a person that deserves the accolades. Jeff obviously went on and did these amazing things throughout life, and campaigning for human rights. I think about what MMSD should look for in naming a school. Jeff was local. He went to Madison schools. He was a civic activist, and he championed equality for all. Jeff enjoyed life. Jeff was always optimistic. It seems like an easy choice to me for the MMSD here. I feel like naming Jeff Erlanger, the school after him, is really within MSD's vision and mission. I also want to state that this honor would avoid variables of politics, race, and religion. One last point is that, as my dad brought up his quote, I can see today as kids walk into their school and they have it painted up that it doesn't matter what I can't do, but it matters what I can do. And that's the goals of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Del Underbaki, and on deck is Lisa Friend Kalupa.
Good evening. Tonight's consent agenda includes funding contracts for rest, an intervention to address traumatic stress for our middle and high school students. Literacy has a powerful and direct impact on our emotional health of students. As you review this request, please consider the benefit of including reading achievement as a part of our resilient response to this mental health crisis. In 2025, for our graduates who agreed to take the ACT, only 60% identifying as white scored proficient in reading. For Hispanic graduates and those eligible for special education services, only 10% were equipped with proficient levels of reading. And only 8% of our graduates identifying as Black exited their free public education supported by proficient reading abilities. Citizens who cannot read struggle to know their rights, vote, find work, pay bills, and secure housing. Documentaries supporting literacy as a human right include testimonies from adults who suffered the anxiety and trauma of being subjected to social promotion policies as an illiterate learner. Is there evidence that MMSD rewards students with earned credits for skills they have not mastered? If so, have we acknowledged the high-stakes consequences of students internalizing subliteracy as a personal flaw, equating their reading difficulties with a lack of intelligence or self-worth? I'm asking this board to acknowledge any aspect of their own literacy privilege that influences your decision-making. 21st century science shows us the immense cognitive and emotional energy required to mask subliteracy and cope with the uncertainty of achieving post-secondary dreams. Tonight's Freedom School slides highlight the Children's Defense Fund's focus on literacy, leadership, and opportunity. But the greatest of these is literacy. Learning without literacy and failing to master core skills increases a student's chances of dropping out, feeling disengaged, and being victimized by substance abuse. There are guidelines and guidance and tools available to confront these challenges. Personalized reading plans provided to identified at-risk readers at the end of third grade will be available for academic and career planning starting at the end of fifth grade. Personalized reading plans can influence individualized learning plans, connecting education with North Star futures. Imagine the flood of students who would choose MMSD if our branding could guarantee Our diplomas represent literacy-grounded framework for post-secondary readiness. This would create a true destination district, not only for the privileged, but for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Lisa Friend Kalupa, and on deck is Yaveli Gutierrez.
Hi, I apologize. I lost my paper, so I'm on my phone, but I'll do the best I can. I'm here to speak in support of renaming Lindbergh Elementary for former MMSD student and community activist Jeffrey Erlanger. I knew Jeff most of his life, and I have only positive things to say about who he was as a person, but I've limited time, and what I want to speak about tonight is from the perspective of as a teacher. I see a real opportunity here for students. That you've heard about the Mr. Rogers episode, and I think it's exciting to imagine for our young students the opportunity to actually see and hear the namesake of their school as a child in a format actually designed for children. I think it's meaningful for them to also know that Jeff attended kindergarten in that same building. It tells them that this is a school where all students thrive and where they go on to have the opportunity to achieve. If you've seen the episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you'll know what I mean when I say that Jeff was someone who was very much comfortable in his own skin. And I think we often forget how important that is when we hold up models for children. That episode inspires because it doesn't fall into the trap of casting him as a hero or as a tragic figure or anything other than his authentic self. And I think that seeing somebody navigate their life as an authentic, relatable child that he was is the same as what they are and what they should be able to see. Then they get to go on and see that he becomes an adult who leverages his lived experiences in order to make the world a better place, just as we hope they will each do. I mentioned earlier that I knew Jeff most of his life. It's worth noting that we did not go to school together, even though we were both in the West attendance area. At that time, West was not accessible to people who use wheelchairs. So this is a part of Jeff's story too, and I think it's an opportunity to teach students that we identify problems and we solve problems. That problem was not solved for Jeff, but it is the kind of barrier that he encountered that then led him to his own advocacy to remove barriers for other people in the community. I also see an opportunity in the video of Jeff and Fred Rogers as adults. I think it's such a great opportunity to remind students that even as children, there's the possibility to have a profound and lasting impact on another human being. He lived a short but accomplished life. I can tell you he was a warm person with a sense of responsibility to the world around him. His strength, positivity, and determination as a child became the strength, positivity, and determination of his adulthood. And I think his message that it doesn't matter what he can't do, it matters what he can do, embodies our district's sense of pride, people, purpose. I just said that in the wrong order, but that's okay. I can think of no better message to share with our MMSD students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, up next is Yaveli Gutierrez, and on deck is William Schwab.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yaveli Gutierrez, and I'm representing Professor Roberto G. Sanchez Scholarship Program. Being part of this program has given me the opportunity to continue my education and work towards my goal as an undocumented student. Being part of this program has showed me that my immigration status does not have to define my future or limit what I can accomplish. It has given me access to resources and a community that understands the challenges I face. Most importantly, it has allowed me to continue my education and believe in my potential. Thanks to this, I will be entering my first semester of the LPN program at Madison College. Naming the school after Professor Roberto G. Sanchez represents not only his legacy, but also the goals, dreams, and achievements of the students who have been given the opportunity to continue their education. Up until now, it has been frustrating to hear so much support for other schools to be renamed after people and so many opposition to Sanchez being renamed after a person. In addition to the lack of representation of scholars that get bused every day from the High Ridge Trail neighborhood to participate in the DLI program. There are 5 businesses in that area with the Maple Grove in their name. You know what? There won't be a school named after a local Latin leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is William Schwab. On deck is Grace Van Berkel.
Hi, I'm Bill Schwab, and let's say inspiration comes in many forms. It can come from lofty oratory, extreme athletic prowess, a unique accomplishment, or even the natural world. But the most powerful inspiration comes from an extraordinary example. In my view, naming a school is not about honoring an individual or a creature. It is about elevating an example that inspires. And that is why I'm here to advocate for renaming what has been Lindbergh School after Jeffrey Clay Erlanger. This is particularly meaningful because Jeff was a Lindbergh student. I knew Jeff as a friend during his life, and I also had the privilege of serving as his physician. In addition, I speak as a parent whose child with disabilities attended our Madison schools. As has been well described, as the result of a medical condition, Jeff was quadriplegic since infancy. The extent of his physical limitations affected every aspect of daily activities. And while that can't be minimized, what also can't be minimized was the equanimity with which he took on the many medical issues he dealt with, his incredible determination, and his powerful commitment to service. Much has been made of how Jeff became known nationally for his appearance on Mr. Rogers some 45 years ago that profoundly affected Fred Rogers, captured the nation, and amazingly continues to have impact today. If that was just Jeff's 15 minutes of fame, it would be interesting, but not really remarkable. What is extraordinary in Jeff's case is that he was inspirational then, and he continues to inspire throughout his life. That was true during his MMSD years at Lindbergh, Stevens, Jefferson, and Memorial, and it was true beyond that time as he went on to graduate from Edgewood College and then immerse himself in serving our community. Perhaps the highest priority for students in our district is to build self-esteem. Self-esteem is the foundation for learning and is essential for positive relationships. Jeff Erlanger had an infectious personal confidence and a powerful sense of his ability to make a difference in the lives of others that was abundantly evident even when he was a child and continued through his adult years. We know that children with disabilities in particular often do not feel seen. A school named for Jeff would elevate an especially meaningful role model for them as it would for all students. I can imagine students for decades into the future at Erlanger School learning about the school's namesake, including watching the Mr. Rogers segment, and then viewing the award-winning video made 20 years later by WHA-TV that featured Jeff as an adult. They would see how a student just like them can have impact as a child and can become an adult who has a major role in the community. We know the importance of social emotional learning. I can imagine them singing "It's You I Like" together with Fred Rogers and Jeff, a song that celebrates each child's special essence. That message is central to Jeff Erlanger's example. What a wonderful inspiration for a school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Grace Van Berkel. On deck is Lisa A. Jameson.
Hi, my name is Grace Van Berkel. My educational background is in developmental psychology. I'm a longtime MMSD volunteer. I have 3 MMSD students who have always been MMSD students, and I am an MMSD special education assistant. It's through these lenses that I have noticed MMSD moving towards an over-reliance on screens in school and treating people as data. I am heartened by your proposal for a tech revision. I support that because I believe we need to shift course towards what makes MMSD great, and that what makes MMSD great are the people that walk in the schools every day or however they mobilize themselves into school every day. I'll give some specific examples. Should teachers text kids? No. Second, should we have teacher-led socio-emotional learning curriculum and maybe assessments if you want? Yes. Sown to Grow and online socio-emotional learning assessments. That's just an oxymoron. And I hope you all developed an opt-out by school, and at least by child. Should the district rely on formulas that project enrollment inaccurately and shuffle coworkers around that have established bonds with their students and community and pack children, very young children, into overstuffed, very hot classrooms? No, we shouldn't do that. Should MMSD provide equitable access to in-person extracurriculars? Yes. Should MMSD have science curriculum that uses books and not have anything to do with YouTube? Yes. Those are just a few. Dr. Gothard, I read your Cap Times feature article. That was excellent. You noticed that your neighborhood homeschool from when you were a kid had the playground empty. And what I notice is that when screens are out, kids are in and they're isolated. And we're modeling that behavior in our schools. I believe that MMSD bravely needs to chart a new path that frees us from a reliance on screens and prioritizes the human experience. And I believe that MMSD needs to boldly trust teachers and staff to help lead that new path, because we got into this profession because we know it is an honor and a privilege to nurture the growth and development of our youth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next is Lisa A. Jameson. On deck is Stephanie Beast Patton.
Good evening. Again, my name is Lisa Jameson, and I am here in support of renaming Lindbergh Elementary School to Jeffrey Clay Erlinger Elementary School. I'm here as a friend. I have been a friend of Jeff since we were in kindergarten. We started school together in kindergarten at Lapham Elementary School, and that was at a time when children with disabilities were not allowed to be integrated into classrooms with their peers. So they were discriminated against because of their disability. A year later, laws were passed, and Jeff and I ended up at Lindbergh, and so he was a lifelong friend of mine. I can tell you, all the great things that he did. I mean, you can Google him and find many, many stories on all of his accomplishments. And I just feel that that you should think about renaming the school. And something I also noticed as I was watching people speak about Jeff is about half of the school board smiled or cried, and that's okay. And I think there's a reason for that. Jeff made an impact not only on this community, but nationwide and probably internationally. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Stephanie Beast Patton. On deck is Cynthia Price.
Hi, I am a first grade teacher, and this will be my 13th year at Elvium Elementary. Ms. Bernard represents the very best of who are as public educators. Her compassion, her drive, and her ability to see limitless potential in every student were felt throughout our halls. At Elvium, we teach our students 8 habits of character, including empathy, compassion, perseverance, integrity, and service. Ms. Bernard lived these habits every day that she walked through our doors. For many of our students, Ms. Bernard was the only Black educator they saw in our school. She understood the importance of representation and went above and beyond to make sure our students of color felt seen, valued, and that they belonged. She helped build programs like the STARS Summer Program at Leopold and Read Your Heart Out. She guided every child through their elementary experience with grace, high expectations, and love. And Ms. Bernard didn't just teach children. She taught every adult and every staff member who had the privilege of working alongside her. I sat in her classroom as a student teacher and marveled at her ability to connect to all her students and pivot when needed. I know there are community members and leaders who believe we should no longer name schools after individuals, and I understand that perspective. But I also believe we have a responsibility to ensure that the names on our school buildings reflect the people and values that represent our entire community. Schools are built for people, and teachers use people, use mentors to teach the next generation. And to use local figures allows for children to learn about their community with pride. You as a Board of Education have established criteria for considering school names, including historical significance, a unique connection to the community, and educational value. Stephanie A. Bernard Elementary School meets those standards more meaningfully than any of the other proposals submitted. I want to share one small moment that captured who Ms. Bernard was. When I was having a difficult day, she would remind me that our students were just little humans trying to make their way through a difficult and overwhelming world. And then she would look at me and say, "And you are human too." Ms. Bernard held students and staff to high expectations, but she always did so with compassion and love. She reminded us that education is not just about what we teach, it's about how we make people feel, how we help them grow, and whether they know they belong. That is a legacy our school should carry forward, and I urge you to support renaming Albium in honor of a true champion of education, a mentor, a role model, a woman that welcomed, supported, and loved those that Conrad Albium would have wanted out. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Cynthia Price, and on deck is Howard Erlanger.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Price. I am at District Memorial High School, and I'd like to talk a little bit about Professor Sanchez. 25 years ago, he started the scholarship program. It was funded, founded, created by him. My sister actually had part of it. She knew him well and has always had great respect for him and what he does. The program you've heard about tonight is fantastic. It's amazing. It's transformed lives. At Memorial, about 25% of the students are Latino, Latinx. I think that holds true throughout the district. I think it's really important that people like Professor Sanchez are recognized, that the Latino community is recognized, and those of us that support the Latino community recognize and represent the Latin spirit that Professor Sanchez imbibed. I'm an English teacher and I'm losing my words. I wholeheartedly encourage you to support and celebrate Roberto Sanchez's legacy by renaming Chavez in his honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is Howard Erlanger, and on deck is Pam Erlanger.
Good evening. So I'm Howie Erlanger, and Jeff Erlanger was my son. Pam and I are here today to let you know how deeply proud and moved we are about the fact that Jeff is a finalist for the renaming of Lindbergh School. When Jeff was just a few months old, he started missing milestones. He couldn't sit up. He cried when he was held. It was hard to get a diagnosis. Eventually, we determined he had a tumor on his spinal cord. It left him almost totally paralyzed, and we were told we'd be lucky if he lived through his first year. Then we moved to Madison, where Jeff found the love and support that kept him thriving for 35 more years. A significant part of that support came from his years in the Madison Public Schools, starting with kindergarten at Lindbergh, where he was in the first cohort of differently abled kids to be mainstreamed in the Madison schools. Jeff made it through the rigors of radiation and more than a dozen surgeries. At age 4, he was one of the youngest people in the country to use an electric wheelchair. Yes, having a 200-pound machine driven around the house by a 4-year-old with limited use of his arm and even less use of his hand was a very scary thing. But it was scary for us, not for Jeff, who mastered it and came out just fine. Pam will tell you about the one situation where it didn't. At age 10, as you heard and may have known already, he had a remarkable encounter with Fred Rogers and appeared on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Recently, a writer in The New Yorker referred to that interaction as the most moving few minutes in the history of children's television. Jeff had a strong sense of social justice, and a succession of Madison mayors recognized this and appointed him to city commissions. He became a leader in taking a civil approach to winning arguments and getting things done. For example, as you've heard, he led the effort to bring accessible taxis to Madison. When he died, the mayor wrote, "Madison has lost one of its most eloquent, thoughtful, and respectful activists." Jeff proved that being passionate and being considerate are not mutually exclusive. We'd be honored if Jeff's approach to life could be an inspiration for the students in the district, specifically at his first alma mater, Lindbergh. Thanks.
Thank you. Up next is Pam Erlanger, and on deck is Nan Youngerman.
Hi, I'm Pam Erlanger, Jeff's mom. I just want to add one thing to what Howie said. I know that some folks would rather not name a school after an individual because of the risk that that person in the future, something negative could come up about that person. But as Jeff's mom, I spoke to him almost every day, even when he was living independently. And I always knew what he was up to. In my opinion, the worst thing that he ever did was to chase his sister around the house with a 200-pound electric wheelchair.
Thank you. Up next is Nan Youngerman. On deck is Karen Perez Wilson.
What an evening. First, a huge thank you to each of the board members for everything you do. Your thoughtful and sometimes thankless work is appreciated. I expect we can agree to move forward after you make your decision tonight on all the school names, and maybe there'll be a unity breakfast tomorrow morning. I'm speaking for the choice of Jeffrey Clay Erlanger as a name that would give back endlessly. As a retired teacher of decades and decades, I've worked very closely with full inclusion models during my years in the Madison schools. How powerful that is to support an individual, build a compassionate community, and give students and teachers tools for learning that last, or tools for living that last a lifetime. As a teacher, one of my most memorable experiences involved a very disabled student who I'll refer to as Cece. This was over 25 years ago, but the impact is still vibrant in my mind. Cece could not do sixth grade work, but the lessons she taught all of us lasted forever. During our year, we found ways to include and love a deeply disabled peer, and in the process, also talked among ourselves, sometimes about our siblings or other family members who were disabled, sometimes about questions or ideas we had about life with a disability. I felt as a teacher, it was a privilege to be the ringmaster. As that year began, I never dreamed this experience would be among the highlights of my 35+ years of teaching. I believe naming an elementary school after Jeffrey Clay Erlinger offers rich learning opportunities that students could carry with them for the rest of their lives. You've heard Jeffrey's motto, it's not what I can't do that matters, it's what I can do. Is that advice for every one of us? What does it look like every day? Do your strengths change from year to year? How can I help you? How can you help me? If we all know each other's goals, might we offer support to one another in growing and changing? Dare I ask if a community operating on this model might grow academically? Would it show on standardized tests? I'm imagining a school community with a stated focus of working together. Every student has strengths, and every student is sincere about doing their best. Having extra support built into a school culture encourages that important trait. Focus on what you can do, a lesson that lasts a lifetime and can be passed on from generation to generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Karen Perez Wilson, and on deck for our final speaker is Betsy Abramson.
Good evening. My name is Karen Perez Wilson, and I'm a graduate from MMSD and double graduate of the University of Wisconsin. I believe Chavez Elementary School should be renamed to Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School. Professor Sanchez created a scholarship I received in 8th grade, a scholarship that honors Latinx in education. This is personal for me because that scholarship was more than financial support. It was an opportunity that shaped the path I took in life. At the time, I was an 8th grade student who was simply grateful to be recognized. But looking back, I understand how meaningful it was to have someone believe in my potential and invest in my education. Today, I'm proud to say that I became the first attorney in my family. That achievement required years of hard work, dedication, and support, and I believe the opportunity created by this professor was part of what helped make my journey possible. That is why I believe his name belongs on this elementary school. Naming a school after him would not just honor one person. It would honor his belief that Latinx students deserve opportunities, encouragement, and recognition in education. It would allow his legacy to reach children at one of the most important stages in their educational journey. Imagine a young Latinx student walking into the school every day and knowing that the person whose name is on the building dedicated his life to creating opportunities for students like them. That student could see the name and understand that someone believed in the potential of Latino students long before they ever knew what they could accomplish. I know what that kind of belief can mean because I experienced it myself. That scholarship I received in 8th grade helped give me the confidence and the opportunity. Years later, I became the first in my family with a doctorate degree. I want future students to have that same feeling of knowing that someone believes in them and that their education can take them anywhere. A school should represent more than a location. Its name should tell a story and communicate the values that the school wants its students to carry with them. Naming this elementary school after Professor Sanchez, who started that scholarship, would tell a powerful story about education, opportunity, Latino achievement, and giving back to the next generation. For me, this is not simply about putting someone's name on a building. It's about honoring a person whose actions had a lasting impact on my life, on my family's future, and making sure that impact continues to inspire young students for generations to come. I am one example of what that investment can accomplish. I hope the school can become another part of his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next and final speaker is Betsy
Abramson.
Abramson.
Thank you. Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to talk with you tonight. My name is Betsy Abramson, and I was the person who back in March of 2023 submitted the proposal to rename Lindbergh School. And by the end of this evening, our community will have accomplished that goal. This May, Chelsea Tubbs, your staff, asked me to chair the Lindbergh Citizens Naming Committee. I was reluctant because, as I told her, I knew personally 2 of the people whose names had been submitted, one of whom was Jeff Erlinger. She checked with your legal department and confirmed that as long as I could lead the committee objectively, that was fine. Well, I must have led it objectively because although Jeff Erlinger's name is in our final 4, he was not the top vote getter. Ms. Tubbs also confirmed that despite that outcome from our committee and my great respect for the committee and the process, it was perfectly fine for me to share my personal views tonight. During our committee's discussions this summer, one of our members mentioned that she was looking for the bullseye name, the name that was just perfect bullseye for Lindbergh. I would like to share why I believe Erlinger is that bullseye. First, I think it's very valuable and productive to look at the Lindbergh renaming from the MMSD point of view. How we can use the school naming process to honor the district's pioneering efforts in mainstreaming kids with different abilities. As you've heard, Jeff attended Lindbergh, starting in kindergarten, beginning his MSD experience. But he lived on the west side near Hoyt School. Why Lindbergh? Because in 1975, as Jeff was just about to start school, Congress passed the later renamed Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. That federal law finally required schools to be accessible to kids with disabilities. Schools couldn't all retrofit immediately, but Lindbergh was in the first cohort of schools because it was already accessible. So Jeff traveled across town to be one of the first kids who used a wheelchair to attend Lindbergh. Renaming Lindbergh to Erlinger helps mark this incredibly important milestone towards inclusivity in our MMSD's history. Bullseye. Second, the community data input. While our committee did not rank Erlinger as number 1, Erlinger was clearly the people's choice. I understand that public input is only one of many factors relevant to your final decision. However, the data here is simply too big to be ignored. Of the 51 nominations for Lindbergh that met the policy criteria, 27 were for Mr. Erlinger, 27 of 51. That's 53% of the nominations. Let's make history tonight. Let's rename Lindbergh for a student who attended the very school being renamed at an important and exciting milestone moment in MMSD's history, when Madison schools became fully inclusive to students with disabilities. Let's rename it for its famous alum, Jeff Erlinger, who graduated from MSD and went on to become an amazing adult, championing rights for others with disabilities across Madison. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we have one public comment, someone who did not wish to speak, from Nancy Sauls, in support of renaming Chavez to Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School. All right, that concludes public comment. On to the approval of minutes. One moment. Okay. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated July 27th, 2026.
Second.
Second, Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, on to board President's announcements and news from around the district. So we want to start by welcoming back all of our staff and students. We look forward to the 2026-2027 school year. So celebrating our staff. Madison area out of school time most included Madison Metropolitan School District and MSCR staff members Luz Cruz, Fred Martinez, Shannon Lawhorn Williams among its outstanding youth workers for 2026, and also recognized La Follette girls basketball coach Will Green as one of 2026 legends.
Celebrating our students. 14 MMSD students successfully completed the district's summer internship program, gaining real-world experience in areas like communications, food service, transportation, building operations, and human resources.
Other acknowledgements in tonight's consent agenda, the board would like to acknowledge and thank all individuals and organizations that have donated to the district, especially the estate of Dick and Sandy Fowler for their donation of $57,934 to West High School for its athletic programs, and the estate of Gail Hetrick for her donation of $50,000 to La Follette High School for general purposes. And from there, I turn it to Dr. Gothard for superintendent announcements.
Thank you, President Castro, members of the board, staff, and community. Thank you for this opportunity. Like President Castro and the Board of Education, we also want to welcome back students and staff for the 26-27 school year. I joined leaders from throughout MMSD at the Leadership Institute. This three-day event is purposefully designed to help create a sense of belonging, build strong connections, and deepen understanding of MMSD's vision to be a learning community where all students are valued, challenged, supported, and inspired to reach their dreams. The energy and shared commitment in that room made one thing clear. We aren't just opening school doors, we're actively building the culture our students deserve. As our educators and staff head into their classrooms for the 26-27 school year, we're ready to support them in turning our vision into a daily reality for every single scholar. Next, in the people section, when I first returned to Madison, to MMSD, I committed to being involved in the community. The community events I've been a part of have been integral to not only building connections, but to experience and discover cultures and communities that enrich Madison. This year, I experienced my first Africa Fest, which was held at McPike Park. I was honored to be invited to be part of the welcome ceremony. We celebrated the rich, vibrant diversity of all 54 nations that can be found right here in Madison. It was truly an amazing, heartfelt experience. As part of this experience, I was reminded of just how little we know about our neighbors and the people we work with. Do we really find the time to get to know them and understand them? This reminder hit home at Africa Fest. There was an important person on that stage with me, a prince. In fact, a true bona fide African prince. And that prince worked for years at MMSD as an SEA, Audi, who is now retired. And I'm pictured with him on this slide. I was his colleague for many years at La Follette High School. He served our students long before any of us knew his royal heritage. He represents the hidden greatness within MMSD. In fact, I looked at him and said, Adi, if I would have known you were Prince, I would have changed your name badge, which he gave his just great, great laugh that I remember so clearly from our time working together. But Adi is a reminder that leaders aren't always on the podium. They are often right beside our scholars, doing the quiet, vital work that supports them and builds our community. That spirit of community and belonging carries directly into our broader partnerships across Madison. I served alongside the 100 Black men of Madison at their Backpack to School celebration, handing out backpacks full of supplies to our incoming students. Seeing the smiles on the children's faces brought me so much joy, and looking around at others in the room, it was clear they all felt the same. I also had the opportunity to give back to the community as part of United Way's Day of Caring. Along with, I think, 30 of our teammates from the district staff, we joined 1,100 community volunteers at the United Way's Day of Caring. It was deeply inspiring to see so many people gathered together to assemble impacts, which are essential care kits to provide to local nonprofits. And just yesterday, I attended the Back to School free haircuts where local barbers, and you all, when I say local barbers, imagine the exhibit room at the Aligned Energy Center filled with barber chairs, not 10 chairs, not 20 chairs, probably 50 chairs, full of children all day long getting their haircuts. I can't say enough about our local barber community, that they pull off this event each year. JP Hair Design, Jeff Patterson, just a mainstay in making sure that that event doesn't just happen each year, but it grows. And the way that he brings others into that space is just a beautiful example of what we can do when we lift each other up and we do it in service of our community and our kids. So just a great opportunity, and what a great annual event that we're so fortunate to be part of. I also had the honor of welcoming more than 150 new educators last week as part of their 3-day orientation. We welcome those stepping into the classroom for the very first time, seasoned professionals bringing their expertise to MMSD, and veteran returning educators. The energy in the room was exciting and deeply inspiring. I'm incredibly proud to have them on our team. A special thank you to Mo Cheeks, president of the Madison Public Schools Foundation, who joined us to give our educators a warm welcome as well. I want to note that fewer teachers are joining us this year, and that's not because we don't have enough staff. It's because we've retained a lot of our educators as well. It's really a positive sign and something that we're watching very closely to make sure that we continue to support the very best of the adults and staff that we can put before our children and work in our schools. We definitely want to invest and see that investment pay off for our students in the future. We enter this school year stronger, more stable, and fully aligned. We look forward to an extraordinary year ahead. President Castro, members of the board, this concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gothard. All right, so moving on, report on items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on August 3rd. Board Chair or Work Group Chair Nichols. Chair Nichols.
President. Yes, our instruction work group that was held on August 3rd, we covered closing out the 2025-2026 school year by really focusing on our summer programming and doing a more comprehensive spotlight on freedom schools. We also took time to look at our 2026-2027 draft instruction work group scope and generated some feedback from board members on that. And then we also had a second read of the policy that we will be voting on tonight, which is notification to parents for alleged sexual misconduct and reporting of inappropriate staff and student relationships. Our instruction work group in September will be a little bit later in the month. It will not be the first Monday because that's Labor Day. But when we meet on the second Monday, we will be launching the 2026-27 school year, bringing in our MMSD Excellence Together strategic plan and priorities, and also looking at professional learning, school improvement plans, just all of the ways that we're starting the year strong.
Thank you. And now items from the operations work group. Chair Muldrow.
Thank you so much, Board President Castro. This August, we discussed in the operations work group our unaudited financials, fund balance for 2026-2027 budget, federal budget updates, facilities, referendum, and we talked briefly about our scope and sequence for the this coming September. We will speak to the issues of our cash flow borrowing, our referendum bond sales, our state biennial budget outlook, our federal budget review, our 2026-2027 student registration, board 2026-2027 budget amendment process for fall approved budget, transportation, and facilities referendums update.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to action items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on August 3rd, 2026. The new policy, notification to parents for alleged sexual misconduct and reporting of inappropriate staff and student relationships. I move that the Board of Education approve the new policy, notification to parents for alleged sexual misconduct and reporting of inappropriate staff and student relationships in accordance with the documents prepared for the August 24th, 2026 regular meeting. The policy will be added effective immediately.
Second.
Second, Board Member Botham, Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
Discussion. Board Member Muldrow.
I want to thank our administration and our board for all of the work that went into this policy. I think folks brought tremendously thoughtful revisions to the table, and I hope we as a policy committee did a good job of including those and updating this policy so that it reflects the shared values of this body of leadership.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, well, moving on to the consent agenda, as there were no action items that proceeded through the operations work group. Okay, I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all of the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the August 24th, 2026 regular school board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his, her, or their affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board.
Second.
Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
Any separations? Seeing no separations, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on. No other items. Other reports to the board. Student Senate, Board Member Shapiro.
Thank you. Student Senate did not meet in August. Our first meeting is still, the date is still being approved, but tentatively it is September 9th.
Yep. Thank you for your work. Hope you all had a good summer. Madison School and Community Recreation Advisory Committee, Board Member Saravo.
And thank you, President Castro. The summer camp programs wrapped up this month and served 4,675 students at 19 different locations, in addition to the nearly 2,000 students served by MSCR in the afternoon portion of summer semester. The MSCR West expansion project is getting underway with groundbreaking anticipated in early September. And as we are wonderfully reminded again, the 2026 marks MSCR's 100th year of service. To celebrate, the Friends of MSCR is hosting a centennial celebration on Thursday, October 15th at the Tinsmith.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Okay. Citizens Ad Hoc Committee relative to renaming LVM Elementary School. This is just the report. The Citizens Ad Hoc Committee relative to renaming LVM Elementary School has narrowed down the proposed names to 4. Those 4 names include Stephanie A. Bernard, Ada Deer, Jeffrey Clay Erlanger, and Capitol View. The Board of Education will be voting on the new name this evening. The Citizens Ad Hoc Committee relative to renaming Lindbergh Elementary School. The Citizens Ad Hoc Committee relative to renaming Lindbergh Elementary School has narrowed down the proposed names to 4. Those 4 names include Sandhill Crane, Ada Deer, Jeffrey Clay Erlanger, and could someone please help me with the pronunciation? Or Firefly. The Board of Education will be voting on the new name this evening. Citizens Ad Hoc Committee relative to renaming Chavez Elementary. The Citizens Ad Hoc Committee relative to renaming Chavez Elementary School has narrowed down the proposed names to 4. Those 4 names include Roberto G. Sanchez, Maple Grove, Ice Age Trail, and Dejope. The Board of Education will be voting on the new name this evening. On to the Policy Committee report. Board members Nichols or Muldrow.
Policy Committee met this evening and prepared for our retreat where we will discuss the scope and sequence of the policies and our process for addressing policy in the 2026-2027 school year. We will meet again on Thursday the 3rd and begin our bi-weekly sequence of meetings starting this September.
Thank you. The Board Governance Committee did not meet. Moving on to other business, 14.1 collective bargaining agreement on base wage, building and construction trades council of South Central Wisconsin. I move that the Board of Education ratify the Building and Construction Trades Council of South Central Wisconsin collective bargaining agreement for the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Second, Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And at 14.2, I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed changes to the employee handbook as set forth in the document prepared for the August 24th, 2026 regular Board of Education meeting and effective immediately.
Second.
Second, Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
Any discussions or questions? Member Mosner Felcom.
Just appreciate the team that came together to come to consensus on these issues. It came before without consensus, and now I'm really pleased to see that we're at a moment of consensus to be able to, I'll be able to approve it from here.
Any further comments, discussion, questions? Just want to echo my appreciation for the work between our union and administration. I know we sent a few proposals back, and so I'm always thankful for your work. All right, the vote, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, on to the renaming. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lay out one large motion. We will then, each board member will then vote, we'll go name by name. And at each name, each board member will choose to vote for that name or not as we go down the list, and the name with the most votes will win.
What?
Okay. All right. I move that the Board of Education select a new name for LVM Elementary School effective at the beginning of the 2026-2027 school year by selecting from one of the four names recommended by the Citizens Ad Hoc Committee.
Second.
Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
I think we have a question.
Oh,
So choose the name.
yes, to choose a new name.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so the question on the floor is whether.
Sorry, I have
LVM
a point of order. I don't understand exactly. So we're doing the motion to accept for us to move forward with choosing a name, and then we'll make a motion for each name, but then do we only cast one vote for all four names?
Legal counsel, could you help explain?
Can you hear me? Yes, you only cast one, each board member for each school because we're doing it separately. So we're starting with LVM. For LVM, there are four options, four different names that were submitted by the committee, the four names you should have before you. And with those four names, you can only select one name from the four names. So you can't proffer a name that's not one of the four, and you can't vote for each name more than once.
Board Member Nichols.
You said nickel.
Sorry, Board Member Vandermeulen.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure. Is it possible just to do a roll call? It would be maybe simpler for each one, so that way.
That's what he's going to say, state each name, and then if that's your vote, then you would say aye for each name, but you can only say aye.
Each of the four.
For each of the four, but you can only say aye once.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand.
Yes, so we'll tally it. Your vote will be counted one vote out of the four for each board member. What, do you have a clarifying question?
Well, I just was confused. I thought we were just gonna go through and say which one we wanted each person.
What do you mean, which one you wanted for each person?
I just thought you would call my name, I'd say, for LVM, this is what my vote is, and go that to that to that, but your way works very well too. I just was confused on how it worked. And I just wanted to make sure before that
And there will still be I just want to make it clear that there's still an opportunity to.
Okay, that sounds good.
Board Member Muldrow.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's up to your chair. Your chair can opt to do that. I just helped him. We organize a different way, but that's an option. As long as as long as everyone has the opportunity to vote to discuss it, that's permissible. And as long as each of the four are considered.
Yep. So what the original plan was, we list out each four names, we discuss, and then for the vote calling, I say one name, and then everybody says yes or no. I call the second name, everybody says yes or no, so on and so forth. Yes, and one vote per person, only one yes vote per board member. Okay. So we'll just do a roll call vote for each name.
Yeah.
And so does that require that I pull back that motion and have separate motions for each name?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we did not call the question. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Chair,
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I still have a question, just part of my point of order. So if we're going to, considering like Robert's rules, if we're going to go through each name, that then requires us to give an aye or a nay or abstain. So then essentially we're making 4 votes for this one renaming. Because if it's like, if I want Maya Pearson Elementary, then I vote Maya Pearson Elementary, and then the other ones I vote nay. Is that sorry? So what I said is that if I am voting for like Maya Pearson Elementary, I would say aye when that name is stated, and then all the other 3 names, I would then vote nay. So then there's an actual recorded vote of like 2-0, 1-0, 6-0, or we're just only giving that one aye. It's a process question.
Board Member Vandermeulen.
yes, I do recall in an email, Chelsea Tubbs had explained that there was a process. Can we possibly have her come and explain it, because she's the one who did the committees? Is that possible?
But my question is just a Robert's rule thing.
Okay, I didn't know how. I was just trying to get as much info as I can. I didn't mean to cause a problem.
That's fine. On behalf of Chelsea, I think that was probably to explain the process of how you were going to receive the names, because that's different from how you used to be able to engage in this process. So now you're just limited to the 4 names, whereas before there were questions of if on the floor they'd recommend names.
Okay, that works better. I didn't know. I'm just trying to use what I knew from my email.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
And then just one last question. If we are doing it by name, are we giving for each name a discussion point? Because if someone says that they would like that name and we're recording votes, then there has to be a discussion then for each name.
Yeah, I mean,
That's also part I'm not.
yeah, each motion, each school will have 4 different motions based off 4 names. Each motion is entitled to a discussion phase. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I'm gonna give this a go. Okay, I move that the Board of Education rename LVM Elementary School effective at the beginning of the 2026-2027 school year to Stephanie A. Bernard Elementary School.
Second.
Okay. Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Discussion? Yeah, Board Member Pearson.
I'm sorry to be the person is a process person. So we already had a motion to do the naming. So there wasn't a vote that was done, but there was a second for that, just to go through the process of naming. So I think we have to back up and vote on that because that there's an active motion on the floor. Even though there was a second.
I think she's.
So because that, because he hadn't called the question yet.
They don't use the microphone that the interpreters can.
Okay, thank you. Because the question wasn't called yet, he made the motion based on the conversation that we had afterward. What's your question?
So the original motion that was made, had include a name that is just recommended by the citizen ad hoc, by selecting one of the 4 names. And so my understanding is by making that motion, and then there was a second, that entered us into the process of the renaming. Because that motion was on the ground, then we would have to vote on it, is from my understanding, before we could actually go into choosing a name.
But the name that was just provided, Stephanie A. Bernard, is one of the 4 names, so that's still permissible. That's still within what he said. He just specifically identified a name.
Okay. I'm just, because then it's there's a second, there's a second motion because it moved to go into the process, and then there was a second, and then there was another motion to take on Stephanie Bernard as the first name. And so, and then there was a second. So now there's 2 motions on the floor, essentially, is what I'm getting at.
Why am I just did it simply if we would gone roll call name? Yeah. It kind of seems that. Why is 100 right?
Yep, we'll recess for 5 minutes. The Board of Education meeting back to order. So I will rescind my second motion, withdraw my second motion, renaming the school after Stephanie A. Bernard. So we are back at our large universal motion of renaming Elvium Elementary School effective at the beginning of 2026-27 school year by selecting from one of the four names recommended. Those four, and so the question on the floor is whether Elvium Elementary School will be renamed one of these four names: Stephanie A. Bernard Elementary School, Ada Deer Elementary School, Jeffrey Clay Erlanger Elementary School, or Capitol View Elementary School. I will open it up for discussion, questions, comments.
Second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, Board Member Muldrow, then Board Member Vandermeulen.
Thank you so much, Board President Castro. I am really grateful for the opportunity to vote.
Your mic isn't on.
It is, I'm just not close enough to it. I really appreciate the opportunity to vote this evening on the renaming of Elvium Elementary School. I am voting in favor of calling the school Ada Deer Elementary School. I really appreciate that the community uplifted this name and how they explained its importance.
Board Member Vandermeulen.
Yes, I appreciate all the names. I am voting for Ada Deer Elementary as the first Native American representative of the state of Wisconsin and in the legislature in the U.S. federal government. I think that her contributions are immeasurable, and therefore I would my vote is for Ada Deer.
Any further comments or questions? Board Member Pearson.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to acknowledge the community that bought this renaming many years ago, and when we had paused our previous policy in terms of renaming. So I just want to say to the public and to the community, thank you for your trust in us that we would get to this point, and also your waiting and your patience with us. And I'm glad that we are here to rename Albion.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, so it sounds like Ada Deer has considerable support. I'll move forward with that name at the vote. So if there is no additional discussion, I will call the question. Say aye. I move that effective at the beginning of the 2026-27 school year, Elvium Elementary School be renamed Ada Deer Elementary School. All those, oh, second. Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye. I'm sorry. I just have another process question, and I'm not trying to be that person, but I'm going to be that person. During discussion, were we supposed to state what school we wanted, or I thought we were going to go individual by board member and they state what they would like the name to be called?
I would have liked each board member to say, but it's their, yeah, but it's up to them if they want to. I mean, they don't have to, but it's my preference. I mean, it's their decision.
Okay, well, I just would like to say that I would like to vote on the Capitol View. But we're already past that point, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Of the motion that just went forward for Ada Deer.
Yes, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Any opposed?
Yes, all those opposed? 1 abstentions? Okay, so we have 5, 1, 1. Okay, so effective at the beginning of the 26-27 school year, Elvium Elementary will be named Ada Deer Elementary School. Okay. So moving on to Lindbergh Elementary School. I move that the Board of Education select a new name for Lindbergh Elementary School effective at the beginning of the 2026-2027 school year by selecting from one of the 4 names recommended by the Citizens Ad Hoc Committee.
Second.
Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Just to clarify, this is not the name, but this is just passing.
Yeah, this is just to get us to the four names.
Okay, aye.
Okay, so the question on the floor is whether Lindbergh Elementary School will be renamed Sand Hill Crane Elementary School, Ada Deer Elementary School, Jeffrey Clay Erlanger Elementary School, or Waruha Firefly Elementary School. Open it up for discussion. Board Member Vandermeulen.
You've heard a lot of people talk on names tonight. I know Jeff very, very, very well. I worked on his campaign when he ran for alder, but I knew him before that without knowing him. He was the first individual, as a disabled individual, I saw mainstream. He was the first individual I saw when I turned on Mr. Rogers, of a person in a wheelchair, a person who was different, a person who was allowed to be himself. We currently do not have a school with individuals named for an individual with a disability. And I think that shows on inclusion and acceptance and needs to be there. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't tell a story, so I'm going to tell one. When I worked on Jeff's campaign, he had a gorgeous dog that you heard before named Corduroy. Corduroy ate all the souvenir matchbooks that we spent 3 months saving up. Never seen a more guilty guide dog in my life. And I still remember Jeff's answer, Corduroy, what have you done? But the key was he never got mad. He never got angry. He wanted peace and joy and understanding. He and I always joked that if he ever had an award named after him for civility, this was many years before his death, that I would never win it. And I stated, I hope I'm never nominated for it, Jeff, because I don't deserve to win such an award, but he sure did. So it's for those reasons I'm voting for Jeffrey Clay Erlanger. And I miss you, my friend.
Thank you, Board Member Saravo.
Thank you, President Castro, and thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. I will be voting in favor of Jeffrey Clay Erlanger. I am so honored that his parents are here today. This touched me so much that this name came up here. I was wonderfully able to be at the naming of the playground that was named after him as well. I think that Jeff helped humanize disability and challenge stereotypes. Whenever I go to any school, I'm seeing the world through the eyes of someone accessing the world in a very different way. And I think Jeff probably did that every day. And which is why people always went to him though. And the way that he built relationships with people. I really love that in Madison, we have the Jeffrey Clay Erlanger Civility and Public Discourse Award. I think that is something that is incredibly honorable to have in the city. And I just love that he was involved in the city of Madison in a very meaningful way, and that we have the opportunity to recognize the impact, which was truly a lifetime. So thank you everyone for coming and speaking on behalf of that, and I'll be voting in favor.
Board Member Muldrow. Oh, I'm sorry, Board Member Pearson, then Board Member Muldrow.
Thank you. So I didn't really get to explain my vote last time, but in this vein for Lindbergh, I would say I've met Ada Deer when I was campaigning and earlier than that. And I've always admired her. And it's really beautiful to see the folks that came out to support Mr. Erlanger as well, and the heartfelt just stories that we get to learn about folks when we are going through this process. I'm a firm believer, and I've said this publicly many times before, that we should definitely stop naming schools after people. Um, even when, you know, there are people that have made big impacts in our community, because we've been through these renamings because of something that may happen. Not to say that that's the case with any of these people on this list. So with that being said, I do believe, for me, I would prefer to rename Lindbergh Sandhill Crane as the option. That was the #1 vote getter from the renaming committee, but also too, it's a name that is not after a person.
Thank you, Board Member Muldrow.
Thank you so much, President Castro. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to vote to change the name of Lindbergh. I think it's important to talk about why we name schools after people and why we've used our renaming process to name schools after folks who are significant locally and talk about our local history. And I think their names have been changed for different reasons and are being changed for different reasons tonight. Like, there are names where new information has been made available to us, and that is why we're changing the name. But when you think about a school like Memorial, it wasn't that new information came forward. It was that our values changed. And I think that we should constantly be positioned well to evolve in relationship to our values. I also want to say that I think all people are capable of significant harm. And I also think all people are capable of doing things that are tremendous and worth celebrating and worth remembering. And I refuse to let the potential for harm outweigh the really remarkable things that human beings are capable of. And so I am deeply honored by the opportunity to support the name Jeffrey Clay Erlinger, and I look forward to casting my vote.
Thank you, Board Member Shapiro.
I just want to emphasize how important it is to recognize all of our MMSD students' backgrounds and ensure that each one of them feels represented in their school. Although I never met him, I can see how enormous his contributions were to the Madison community, both locally and nationally. And I'll be using my advisory vote to vote for Lindbergh to be renamed after Jeffrey Clay Erlinger.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Okay. Okay. All right. Seeing no additional discussion, I will call the question. I move, effective at the beginning of the 2026-2027 school year, Lindbergh Elementary School be named Jeffrey Clay Erlinger Elementary School. Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 6-1. On to Chavez Elementary School. I move that the Board of Education select a new name for Chavez Elementary School effective at the beginning of the 2026-2027 school year by selecting from one of the 4 names recommended by the Citizens Ad Hoc Committee.
Second.
Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay. The question on the floor is whether Chavez Elementary School will be renamed Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School, Maple Grove Elementary School, Ice Age Trail Elementary School, or Dejope Elementary School. I will open it up for discussion. Board Member Nichols, did you have? Oh, okay. Board Member Pearson.
Yeah, I just want to thank the Sanchez Scholars for coming up, giving your testimony. As a person who runs a very similar program for other students of color, it is just always beautiful to see the growth, the development, the investment into Leslie that you have put into these young people and poured into them for 20 plus years. And, you know, I am so grateful to continue to do the work with you, to support scholars in MMSD, I have had an opportunity to go to your graduations, and, you know, be able to partnership with the Sanchez Scholars. And so by no means, my vote today is by no means in disrespect to the work that you all have done and continue to do and will continue to do, even when Leslie is ready to pass that baton one day. Again, I do believe in we should move forward and not naming schools after people. And so for me, I would be voting to do Maple Grove. And to the student that brought up, there's enough places, Maple Grove. I did look up all the businesses around the current Chavez School to check. And you are right. And I probably will be outvoted today, and that's totally fine. But I did want to speak that because I do have a tremendous respect for the Sanchez Scholars as well as the work that Leslie does. And I'm grateful to follow in that kind of footsteps and supporting young people in Madison. So that is what I'd like to say.
Board Member Muldrow.
I want to thank everyone who came and spoke to us today and shared their stories with us and shared how much the Sanchez name means. I also want to thank, there was a young person who spoke pretty early on who talked about the experience of seeing a name like your own on your school. And I think we, in this climate, need to be aware of what we're saying. Like, were we to say we're only going to name schools after things that occur in nature, would we be talking about only naming schools in English? Would we be talking about like eliminating certain perspectives and ideas from you know what can be recognized via the name of a school? I'm tremendously grateful that you all challenged us to hear what you had to say. And I fully support the name Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School. And it meant a lot to get to hear from all of you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I'll speak briefly. As an Afro-Latino student who came up through this district, I understand the importance of representation, but also being able to not just have representation, but have it be incorporated into instruction and the everyday life or educational experiences in our school. So I am proud to be voting for Roberto G. Sanchez tonight, elementary school. Any further comments or discussion? Board Member Saravo.
Thank you, President Castro. I wanted to thank everybody from Sanchez Scholars for coming today. You guys are truly a community, and it really, really shows. There's a reason why Sanchez was at the very top of the list of names that was for this school. And I want to thank all the young people today for coming as well. It's really hard to get in front of and talking to a microphone and say everything that you guys are feeling. But I'm very thankful that you showed up and that you've got a lot of passion behind all the things that you do in regards to your education and in Madison.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Okay, seeing none, if there is no additional discussion, I will call the question. I move that Chavez Elementary School be renamed Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School. Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? All those opposed? One abstention. Motion carries 601. And now, effective at the beginning of the 2026-2027 school year, Chavez Elementary School will be named Roberto G. Sanchez Elementary School. All right, there is no old or new business. May I get a motion to adjourn? Okay. Board Member Shapiro, your advisory vote? Oh, second. Aye, we're adjourned. Aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. All right.